The Japanese automaker now expects an annual net loss of about $5 billion US.
These are just talks. There's so many things that could derail this merger.
Honda and Nissan have officially called off their merger.
Oh, so Nissan just had its worst financial year since the Japanese economic bubble collapse of the late 90s, and everyone is just asking what the heck is happening. Now, this is the same company that, as of right now, they're saying that they're gonna make a new R36 like GTR. They're doing that while simultaneously cutting 20,000 jobs and closing 7 factories. The same company I would love to go hang out with at a Formula E race is the same company reducing parts complexity by 70% and cutting 6 platforms. So just what is happening? Well, I think I know. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It has been a freaking minute since I did one of these, just sitting down and talking to you, but I can't seem to go anywhere without Nissan being front and center of bad news. And it all started about a month ago when they released a notice that they last year lost only $4.5 billion. Now, that's $513,000 an hour, every hour for a year, which is insane. Almost as insane as Nissan thinking that the Nissan Murano Cross Cabriolet would ever sell. Now, the reason that Nissan is failing, in my opinion, isn't because of the failed Honda merger, and it's not because of CVTs. I think it's something way older and worse, and to figure out why one of my favorite brands would ever go from buying and selling fun cars is now, for some reason, on the verge of evaporating, we need to spend just a minute on a very important part of their history from 1992 to 1999. And by the way, if you have your own opinions on this, drop them below. Grab your tin hat, folks. I love reading what you think is happening, because it might just be completely wrong or right. Anyway, you see, back then Nissan was already getting into a lot of trouble. At one point, they had a heyday. They were exporting like 830,000 vehicles to the United States, and they thought because that was happening, they should double down on production. The only problem is that was so short-lived that Honda and Toyota were already on their backs, and the decreasing yen was starting to make it a really big problem to pretty much sell anything. You see, even though the 90s were home to some of my most favorite, most iconic race cars of all time, their point of no return really hit. Like, Nissan hit historically low margins as a vehicle manufacturer, and they were selling cars at one point where every single time one came into the United States, they lost $1,000. I mean, Nissan, from a racing and motorsport perspective, was dominating, but it had lost money almost every single year except 1996, and the only answer came from a CEO in a suitcase, which is really only half a joke. But while a lot of people try to blame Carlos Ghosn for like all the mess that's happening right now, including the current CEO of Nissan, there is no arguing that Nissan, outside of like their historical vehicle models that had to get sunsetted, saved the company. And this is kind of where this weird thing starts to happen. You see, Nissan has always been aggressive when they won, but they've always been really prideful when they've lost. When I say prideful, I mean like they just don't want to admit that they lost. And this is the start of a downturn. You see, your dad would probably blame Nissan CVTs. Trust me, I want to. They're weird little frisbees, and frankly, I don't trust them. But they're not the reason Nissan is in this position. Your college teacher would blame Carlos Ghosn because he was mean and literally had to get bailed out by a House of Gourd in a suitcase kind of activity, but they're not the issue either. You see, Carlos did do some good stuff for the enthusiasts. He gave us the 350Z, he gave us the G35 platform for everyone except Street Takeover kids, and we even got the R35 GTR. Now, Nissan, in my opinion, could have become the Japanese Tesla if they had kept developing that silly little car that we call the Nissan Leaf. But somewhere along the way, I think Nissan, and the real reason that we're in this pickle of this brand that had some of the coolest cars of all time, the Nissan R33 GTR LM is the coolest car of all time. They went from making banging, awesome, cool, affordable cars to being what I would almost consider the Chrysler of Japan. Okay, it's ridiculous. This next part is really important. This is the only way I can keep all y'all's attention.
Speaking of which, if you don't buy tin hat from Martini Works or car parts, then this would be a great time to subscribe. It's a free way to support the channel and all the car building, motorsport coverage, and global car stories I put a ton of love into, with the next one being Le Mans in June. So if you haven't done that yet, please do that and leave a comment. That helps loads. I'm sorry for the House of Gourd joke.
You build finance programs, and this is important for nobody to understand, but if you care, you care. In 2015, Nissan's financial services accounted for 42% of its total operating profit. The money at the end of the day, the money you put in the wallet, even though it was just 8% of Nissan's total revenue, which is the big number, okay? Which means what you get is people starting to sell Delta credit cards instead of selling Delta airfare tickets. It's just like this twist on it. What ended up happening is you got internal folks to prioritize $79 Nissan Leaf leases instead of telling somebody at Nissan that the Leaf needs a charging station not built in 2003, and people would actually buy it. Now, in the 2010s, Nissan also got into a really nice twin bed with more subprime lenders through their programs. Those programs were called the Signature Lease and Signature Purchase programs, and the lending services that offer programs to consumers with credit scores of 600 or below was a huge portion of their business. $9.2 billion. It was 38% of its US portfolio, nearly triple that of its competitors. Now, the lease part isn't bad inherently, but when Nissan assumed that the car's values held 70% of its residual value on things like the Rogue and the Altima, they were looking at the market with the most rose-colored glasses you had ever seen in your entire life. You might as well have been blind, okay? Remember, leases and loans work off what banks think a vehicle is worth after a certain period of time. And if you get that wrong, you might owe the bank more money. That's if you're a normal, everyday consumer trying to pay for milk. But when you lease, it's not your problem, it's Nissan's problem. And Nissan's lease program was so aggressive that their financing arm, the NMAC, took all of that burden to pay for that. And then Nissan took that out of their research and development expenditure. And I know there's a lot of numbers coming at you, but from 2015 to 2025, there are reports that Nissan went from spending 4.1% of their revenue on R&D to 2.1%. In comparison, Toyota is 4.6%. And it's only gotten worse. Nissan's incentive is more snake eating tail the last year than ever before. As of today, Nissan needs to sell 1.7 Nissans to sell one Nissan that it sold in 2015. Now, why does this matter? Alex, why do you care? Why is this such a big deal? You're supposed to talk about aftermarket cars and global car culture. Because I love Nissan, okay? It's like that high school friend that you loved. You would go, you'd hang out with them. You'd go and you'd play RuneScape. You grind rock crabs, you grab a Coca-Cola, you play some popcorn, and you're really excited for that one Avengers movie that talked about Iron Man. And now you look at him and you look at the profile picture and it's just a dude in sweatshorts and long shorts in an 80-degree day, and you know they're in jail, and it just kind of makes you sad. Cars are hard to steal, but they've got a stick in the middle for that, and that scares most folks in this country. But our normal cars, well, locks are becoming more like warnings and less like actual locks. Key fobs can get swiped as folks walk by you, and it's caused a huge spike in car theft, which is why Pedal Commander just launched something super convenient called the Antitheft feature in their Pedal Commander app. It takes just a second to enable, and what it does is it uses your Pedal Commander equipped vehicle to lock its throttle so that no one can drive your car except for you with this. It's insanely affordable at 99 cents a month or $9.99 per year, and can give you peace of mind for your car, the things inside it, and whatever you plan to park it can stay safe. So thank you, Pedal Commander, for sponsoring this video, and if you're looking for some extra peace of mind, you can learn more using the link below. Nissan is an enthusiast brand. It has always been an enthusiast brand. Its history and heritage is an enthusiast brand. Nissan has had 4 CEOs in 8 years. Moody downgraded their credit rating to junk status. Okay, the new Nissan CEO has been at Nissan since 2003. So it's not exactly like we're getting a wave of fresh minds to come in there. Even the board of directors, there's 2 new board of directors. That's good. I like that. That's exciting. But it's so terrible for me to see a brand that you and I love so much go through something like this. But at the end of the day, they're doing it to themselves. And it's not the CVT. It's not Carlos Ghosn. It's not the fact that enthusiasts make up a small portion. If anything, they should take a little check out of Mazda's book and just remake the 350Z for 30 years. At least give us something. But what we're left with is a car company that spent so much time prioritizing lending and leasing and trying to create credit card programs, not credit card programs, but you get my point, that they kind of forgot to make cars. And they started losing really bad. And then they started losing even worse really fast. And what you have is a company that came out with some incredible icons like the Nissan 350Z, like the GTR, the R32, R33, R34, the R35. Even the Nissan Z had the opportunity to be incredible, but because they couldn't figure out their ass from their elbow on how they were gonna release the car, that failed too. And that, my friends, is why Nissan is failing. Now, the good news is they do have a little bit of money to float for the next 12 months, or so they say. And there's another restructuring coming where they plan on firing like 20,000 people or 10,000 people and shutting down 7 factories and doing this and doing that, all to save cost. But it doesn't change the fact that if Nissan doesn't figure out how to fix its subprime lending, low credit score, going for just the cheapest of the cheap issue, they're never gonna win, because Nissan isn't as good as BYD. They're not as efficient as Toyota. They're not, honestly, dare I say, as bad as Fiat. But gosh darn it, Nissan, pull yourself together for me and us, please. Well, what do you guys think? Am I right? Am I wrong? Should I put my tin hat away? Should I stop huffing helium? Because that gave me a headache. Anyway, you let me know below. Of course, I'm AlexMartini. If you enjoy going and traveling for global car stories, motorsport information, short form content where we talk about cool car stories, and you haven't had a chance yet, be sure to subscribe. And if you have a car and you're looking to modify it, head on over to martiniworks.com. It's where we actually have the chance to help you mod your car right, and it means the world for you to check that out. I'm Alex. Hope you enjoyed, and I have a headache. Goodbye.